Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to The Rising. We have a special guest with us that I am so privileged to be sitting next to. This is John Panichella, who is a friend of mine. In some ways, over the last couple of years, I've gotten to get to know you, and we're going to get to talk about his career. John happens to work for a major media marketing company, and you do branding and marketing.
Yep.
And how do you specifically describe it?
It's funny because I feel like I was able to describe it so much easier when I first started, because when I came out doing all of this, I was working as a content editor for J14 magazine at the time. And then I started doing public relations. And so I was an editor and a publicist. Today, I find myself doing a lot of content editing, public relations, talent management, creative direction, marketing, branding, social media optimization. I kind of find myself doing it all. I find myself in TV and film at times, and I just kind of love what I do. And I think that the modern publicist, if you will, has to wear many hats. Freshman year, I started a blog, and that's kind of how my career started, but I was the kid who was walking around blogging. And
what would you blog about?
I did entertainment news. Started doing entertainment news blogging when I was a freshman. Yeah, so from freshman to senior year, I interviewed 30 or 40 celebrities. I was interviewing celebrities. Every weekend, I would go to New York and go to Island Records or go to a Broadway show and interview someone there, or go to like Warped Tour. That was my first event that I ever went to, and I got to interview all the bands there.
How would you get the interviews? How do you?
I just pretended that I wasn't 15, and so I would email people, and I look back at these emails because for me, this was my schooling. Like, this is how I learned to do what I do now. And if I didn't get a response, I would say, oh, I have to write the email differently. And I would keep going until I got the responses. And so once I started covering events, I also hit the blogging world right at the time when blogging was blowing up.
So how big was this blog?
By the time I was a sophomore, I had 1 million readers a month on it. But the most frustrating thing about this blog that I had is that it was very successful. I monetized it in high school. I was interviewing celebrities. Celebrities were posting me on their MySpace back in the day. Like, it was doing really well. I was getting invited to events in Fashion Week, and I was invited to like Rob Dyrdek's Fantasy Factory out here, like so many different things when I'm in high school. But there was no social media. So without that, there was MySpace, but there was not Instagram. There was not, like, Twitter had just started. There was no TikTok. Vine was after this. So when I had 1 million readers, I had no followers. So I was never the influencer. My blog was the influencer.
Gotcha.
And that was something that is so frustrating to me. And one of my great friends, Tamara, she had a blog as well. And we met through the blogging world and are today best friends from that. But we always talk about this. If we just had Instagram like a year or two earlier, we would be set. We'd have 1 million followers. We'd be doing our own thing. We'd be the influencers. But because we missed that mark, it was really just this blog had a presence, and I was the author and editor of this blog.
Although, because I know who you are presently and who you've become and how successful you are, in some ways, it's kind of cool how things worked out for you, because you're so fun to hang out with. You're such a cool person to be able to sit down with. And it's like, I'm glad in some ways you didn't turn out.
It would have been different. It would have been a whole different life. I would have had different friends. I would have been in different places. And I think where I'm at now is where I'm meant to be. So it was supposed to happen that way. But it is definitely a funny thing to look at and be like, what if? Like, what if there was an Instagram to go along with this at the time? But I loved it. I loved blogging. I miss blogging, honestly. I loved having an outlet where I could just write my thoughts on everything. And that's what I would do. I would look at pop culture, entertainment news, and I would write my thoughts on it. And then I would also do celebrity interviews. And then I moved into doing video and on-camera interviews and things like that. And then I don't know if we want to go there now, but essentially what happened was I moved to Los Angeles, and the executive editor of J14 magazine found my blog and asked if I wanted to freelance for them. Solely off of my blog. So this is my full resume at the time. At this point, I had dropped out of college. I went to college for 1 semester.
You told me that, yeah.
And when the professor was trying to tell me what a press release was, when I had a press release in my inbox from Rihanna's team, I was like, I don't think this isn't fitting right. Like, I already know this. I've done this for 4 years. So I wanted to give it a shot and move to LA. And if it didn't work, I would just go back to school. And my parents were very supportive of that, surprisingly.
Really?
Which is surprising because they did not go to school either. So I was going to be
especially
first.
Too, if they like invested in private education.
Well, that was the biggest thing.
That
They're
would
like
be
all of this money down the drain,
right.
And I'm just like, I promise you, it's going to work out. That money did not go down the drain because I created my blog in high school because there was another blogger in there, an editor in my class who told me that I should start a blog because I love writing, and so I met her from this school. So it happened the way that it did for a reason, but it may not have happened how we thought it was supposed to happen. And I think that sometimes the best things in life happen that way. But so I dropped out of college and came to Los Angeles, and within 6 months, the executive editor of J14 asked me to freelance for them. I did 2 events.
Can we back up there? Because that's 6 months. That's a big gap right
talk
there.
About those 6 months?
Yeah, you land in LA.
That's a rough 6 months.
What was that like? So you get here and you didn't have any opportunities when you came, right?
So I moved here with my best friend Dylan, who is an artist that I manage and I was working with at the time as well. So we moved here, and I was fortunate enough that I have a cousin who lives here already. She works in entertainment as well. And so she was like, you can come stay at my apartment for like a week or 2, get everything together and see what happens. On day 1, I found an apartment in the same building as my cousin. And so it took about a week to get all of that paperwork signed. And I moved in there with Dylan. We lived together in a 1-bedroom. And I slept on the floor for a couple months. So I slept on the floor. I remember we found a mattress outside that brought in. I let Dylan have that. I was like, here, you can use the mattress. I'm good on the floor. I used all of my money. Well, I sold my car before I moved here to get some money. So I had some money there put aside. And other than that, I had 2 suitcases of clothes. And that was like all I had. So I remember going to Best Buy, opening a Best Buy credit card, and buying myself an iMac. I bought the iMac because I was like, well, I need something to work. Like, what am I going to do without like iMovie or Final Cut? And so I buy this computer, and then I get back to the apartment and realize I have no table, no desk, no chair. So for a month or so, I had my computer on the floor, and I would sit on the floor, cross legs, and just do my work there. Go on Craigslist, apply for like PA jobs, editorial positions, kind of anything that I could do. I have a cousin in the NFL, and so he had brought me on to do his PR at that time. So he is one of the reasons I was able to stay in Los Angeles for those 6 months. And so I got to work with him, which was great and super helpful and something I'm very grateful for.
That's awesome.
And then I actually was writing for a gossip site under a fake name for 6 months. And they would send me the craziest things, and they would be like...
Give us an example of what that's like.
Okay, this was around the time Whitney Houston passed. And so they would send me an article that said, like, Bobby Christina was on life support at this time. And they would be like, oh, Bobby Christina's on life support, and Bobby Brown's out of town. What do you think the chances are that, like, his family member will come and pull the plug on her to get the money? And I was like, probably slim to none. And they were like, well, you're going to write that it's very high. And so I would have to write these crazy, like, yellow journalist articles that are just, like, slanderous and, like, gossip and clickbait under a fake name. And they paid me $5 per article, and I would write 40 to 50 articles a week.
Wow.
And so I would just slave away at these articles. It was all done via Skype, which I think is the weirdest thing. Like, I would have to send them the article on Skype, and then they would just pay me on PayPal at the end of the week. I would invoice them. And I still don't understand how it worked, because I was like, so there is no limit to the amount of articles I can write? And they're like, no. I was like, so if I write 1,000 articles this week, you're going to pay me $5,000? And they're like, yeah. Of course, I never got to that point, but I was writing between 40 and 50 a week just to kind of keep things afloat. And so I was doing that for a long time. I was doing that.
How'd you feel about that? Like,
honestly, at the time, I felt like it was paying my bills. It's something that I needed to do. It wasn't necessarily the type of work that I wanted to do, but I also knew that for me to get to that place, I was going to have to make sacrifices and do things that maybe don't fulfill me to get to that place where I can be fulfilled.
A lot of what you share in these early months, and it's not very glorious, which I think needs to be talked about more often. Maybe it's starting to come to light more often, but I feel like, you know, through shows like The Entourage or different things, you get this total image of what it's like to try to be an up-and-coming artist or an up-and-coming producer in Los Angeles. And it's so not glorious.
It's very different.
So not glorious.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times I cried in that room just being like, wow, I miss my parents. Really? I miss my friends back home. am I going to make rent this month? Like, am I going to fail? Because failure is my biggest like worry in life. So when I'm sitting there like, oh, am I not going to succeed? Is everyone who said I was going to fail right? Like that, those are thoughts that plagued me during those 6 months.
What kept you strong and frankly sounds like very committed and tenacious to working hard to build it? Because it didn't just fall into your lap.
My parents. So they are definitely biggest inspirations for me. I feel like I find a lot of my support in them. Parents, friends, family, and also myself. Like, and that's something that I think a lot of people should try to find. I have a desire in me to do well because I know that I can. And that pushes me to continue to do well. It's something that, because as much as I love that support from my parents, that is motivation. I think about them every day. I do have to find that within myself. And that's something that I lean on a lot too, is just knowing, okay, today may be difficult, but you have a vision and you need to make that vision a reality. So yeah, let today be a wash, tomorrow get back up and try again.
You talked about fulfillment and even I think we've talked in the past about gratitude and what that is for you in light of everything that you've now achieved.
That took a while to get to. In those first 6 months, I wasn't waking up feeling like gratitude or going to sleep feeling gratitude. Those 6 months were difficult. I didn't know how long I was going to make it out here. I didn't know if I was cut out for this. But I had that little feeling that like, this is what you want to do. And this is what you're good at doing. So do it. Like
skydive.
Regardless of what I'm receiving at that point in those 6 months, I knew that if my output continued, someone would notice and something would happen for me.
That's okay. So the 6 months, you end up now getting the interview with JL Magazine. J14 Magazine.
Yes.
And so how does that go down?
They reach out to me and they ask if I want to cover an event for them as a freelance reporter. So I say yes, I cover that. And then they ask for a couple celebrity interviews because they were like, we see that you know a lot of different like recording artists. At this point, I had been networking out in Los Angeles, so I had met with a couple of the Viners at the time. I still had my blog at that time. So I was still getting into events under my blog at that point.
Really?
So I was still out here, like I was interviewing like Shawn Mendes and Cameron Dallas and Nash Greer and Tila Dunn, like all of the YouTube, Vine, Awesomeness TV, like that kind of time. And so they saw that I knew these people and they were like, well, if they're doing it for your blog, they'll definitely do it for one of the biggest teen magazines. Can you reach out to them and do it with us as well? And so I started supplying content to them. I started freelancing for events. And then within 2 or 3 months of that, I just had an offer letter in my inbox asking if I wanted to be the West Coast editor for the magazine. And so I took that position, and that was my first real like corporate position where I was actually like on a payroll by a company, working in editorials, something that I had dreamed about doing my whole life. So for me, that's when I started finding my gratitude, because I was like, wait, if the younger John could see this, he would think that's really cool. This is what you've wanted your whole life. You are working at a huge media outlet. You're going to the Radio Disney Awards, the Kids' Choice Awards, the American Music Awards. I was interviewing the Jonas Brothers. I was just like everything that I had thought that I wanted to do, I was doing. And so I was like, okay, I want more now. But I am also okay tomorrow if I wake up and this were all to stop, because I have done something that has been my dream. I have fulfilled that dream. And so then the battle becomes, okay, you want more. How do you want more but remain grateful? And that's something that I had to learn over the past 4 years.
Talk about that, because that's a big deal.
I think that for me, I tend to live in the state of duality where I'm like always grateful for everything I have and understanding of, again, if it were to go away tomorrow, that would be okay. But also understanding that I have achieved those things and there are now no limits on what I can achieve as long as I want to put my mind to that. And so for me, I love a challenge, and I want to be able to be honest, to give back to friends and family more. And for me to do that, I have to do more and I have to achieve more. And so I kind of just do it. And again, if you love what you do, I think that it becomes a lot easier to do that.
Well, you really do challenge yourself to pursue excellence. You're challenging yourself to constantly reach for more, but yet you're really saying it's okay if it all goes away tomorrow.
Absolutely.
How are you okay with that?
I think that if I don't want to get super spiritual, but I think that if you find your true peace and fulfillment in your spiritual beliefs, then these earthly things matter a little bit less. And so for me, my connection with my spiritual beliefs are what grounds me for real. There is definitely this earthly self that wants to continue to succeed in all of those things, but that is not what I need in life. What I need is to have that connection with my spirituality. And so for me, that is kind of what I think of as duality.
I want to break that down, but I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Okay.
But I want to take what I just heard, reflect it, and kind of see if I'm getting it right.
Yeah.
So your identity is not wrapped up in what you do, actually.
Correct.
You're telling me your identity is so much deeper than that, but you still feel this drive to pursue passion, excellence, your craft, the things that were put in you to do. And so you're always striving, okay, I just broke through this. My confidence level, I can do anything. Now I need to reach for more. But you're still not attaching your identity to that.
Correct. If you want to get very deep with it, I attach the identity of John Panichella to that, but I don't attach the identity of my soul to that.
That's interesting.
And so my soul is not necessarily the same person as I am. Like in the afterlife, whatever people believe, I won't be John Panichella. I'll be a soul. So John Panichella is very aware of that and able and desires to succeed on the earthly sense, but my true peace is that my soul is content because I am fulfilled in that relationship with the spirituality that I have, and I am fulfilled in the relationship with my friends and family and seeing those things. That is what really keeps me going.
I want to push you one more question there, and if we go way too
no, I'm like I didn't know we were getting into this side of things.
You're bringing up like incredible things. So, do you believe in your eternal state or disembodied state that you will have that you will have a continuous identity with who you are? Because you're saying I'm not going to be John in that state, but do you still believe that that's you in that state?
Unclear, to be honest. I haven't figured that part out of it yet, which of course, I mean, I haven't figured it out. It's not like I know all the secrets to life. For me personally, I have not figured that out yet. I do feel that they are separate beings and entities. Okay. I think that there are things that my soul needs that John Panichella doesn't need, if you will, and vice versa. Like my soul doesn't need to have like a diamond earring and gold chain or things or like success in a career, and the same way that my body doesn't need the things that my soul needs, if that makes sense.
I think I get the dualism that you're talking about. But so then you identify John more with the earthly appetites and needs and
right. Also, I don't talk in the third person. Like I promise. Like this is like we got way off topic here, but I promise. Like if you meet me, I'm like very normal, and I'm not going to be like, oh, you have just met John Panichella. Now let me introduce you to someone else. Like I promise that is not how I am. I'm like trying to explain this in the most like simple way. I promise.
Well, I'm dragging you into like you're touching on things, and I'm like I'm fascinated with what you're talking about there, and not just to get into conversations about metaphysics, but actually really interested in how you seem to have such a healthy perspective of what it is to be both ambitious and yet content.
Right.
Yeah,
it's hard to put a finger on that, honestly. I don't know if I'm just wired that way, or that's definitely not true because I wasn't always like this. I think it is I do a lot of like gratitude practices. So I do wake up every morning and say what I'm grateful for. And when I go to bed, I do the same thing. So those are things that I've done for years at this point.
What's that routine look like? How does that play out?
It can be different. So sometimes I'll wake up and put on like rain sounds, or I'll put on like a little meditation music, and then I would just sit there and close my eyes and think about the people I'm grateful for, the things I'm grateful for, the career that I'm thankful for, the house, the body, like everything that is keeping me alive. I think that is something that I try to remind myself of. And then I always try to be grateful for maybe the things that are challenging me, or maybe the people that I feel are crossing me, because they're also building who I am. They're building my story. So I need those things. Without those challenges and the negative, if you will, I wouldn't know how to experience positive things. And so I'm grateful for both sides of things. But that can be, again, simple meditation. Sometimes I will write it down on my phone, or sometimes I'll have a journal that I'll write it in. I have started journaling, so I do that once a day. I have like a little app and it has like a prompt, and that's more just for my own creativity and sanity. So it'll be a different prompt every day, and I'll just write like a paragraph or two about whatever that prompt is. And so that could be as simple as like, what is your favorite food, or what is a core memory from your childhood? And those vary in different length, but I just do like writing every day. Writing has always been at the center of my life and career. That's how I started everything. I was writing poetry in like second grade and third grade. That's when I knew I wanted to be a writer. And that's how the blog came to be.
That's cool. And you're not just talking about like, a vague attitude of gratitude. It's like, no, you have very concrete practices, almost disciplines that you're implementing on a daily routine.
Yes, it's funny you say that, because I just had this conversation with some friends who they ask about like, oh, how are you so spiritual, and how are you so like fulfilled and things like this? And because, they buy the crystals at the shops in LA and they do these things, and I'm like, those are all just like physical representations of the actual action. Though I'm grateful because I've spent 10 years practicing gratitude, not because I put a crystal in my living room. Do I have the crystal? Yeah, I think it's a nice reminder of the actual action that I take every day. And that's why I'm grateful. It's not because I buy something and think it's going to heal me and make me better. I am disciplined in those things. I work very hard to make sure that I am practicing gratitude and reminding myself that I'm fulfilled, or if I'm having an off day, reminding myself that there are 10 great things going on at the same time. You have to take those steps. If you're not doing the work, there is no fulfillment or gratitude that's just going to come out of nowhere.
I love what you're sharing. I want to emphasize it more because we care very much about talking about spirituality, talking about having a fulfilled life, living into flourishing. And you're touching on something that I know there's so much hunger out there in our audience for spirituality. There's a deep hunger. I think people, they know that we are more. And yet, I think there's this idea that spirituality is something that just kind of happens, or it's something that you don't really work at. And that's not true.
No.
It would be like any other discipline or any other thing we try to be proficient in. You practice spirituality.
And you become better at it as you practice it. You feel more from it when you connect to it more, and you can only connect to it more by doing it more. So if that's going to church every weekend, then that is something that you do because it grows that relationship for you. It's not... You can't just like walk into a church and come out and be like, oh, everything is great, everything is better. You haven't practiced the spiritual.
You're going to an ignorant church
You haven't done the work, if you will. I mean, an athlete doesn't go out and play a game without practicing every day before that.
Yeah, and you can have fun playing the game, and but if you're going to get better at it, that actually is the proper term, religion. Religion is to practice our faith. It's to practice our spirituality. And I know that religion gets a totally horrible connotation to, but that's what it really means, is to implement and practice, and even the word habituate.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe a lot of the things that we do in life are necessarily things that we're always intentionally choosing. I do think that we have agency to make intentional choices, but I'd say probably 90 to 99% of what we probably end up doing in a given day is really just living out our habits, living out our character, living out our nature. And especially when we react, let's say, you're talking about practicing gratitude for all the good things, but there's bad days.
Yeah.
There's negative things. And what is it to react to that with gratitude?
Totally.
You got to practice that.
You have to practice, and you can still fail. I've had a terrible week, and so I'm like working on that as well. But you remind yourself of those things, little things like this, like coming here today was something that I said, you know what? Okay, work has been stressful, but I'm grateful to go do this. And that's something that pushes you through. There is always something to look forward to.
So talk a little bit more about like when you have a bad week and like it's really discouraging. How do you work through that and practice the gratitude?
That, for me, it can be a couple of different things. I'm someone who I'm a crier, so I'll go just cry it out and then get back to work if I have to. I'm someone who will kind of just push through and make it happen, and in the back of my mind just be like, okay, this is annoying, but this can lead to a better place, or this may take me to the next step of my journey, and I have to get through this, because you have to go through something to get to something. So I don't want it to be an easy journey. I want the challenges. That's what's going to build me up to handle the next challenge. And so I remind myself of that. And then I also, I look back on what I've accomplished, and I remind myself of times where I felt that way and say, okay, well, remember a year ago you had this challenge and you thought this was the end. You were going to quit. You didn't want to do it, and you made through it, and you're here now. That's going to happen again. You just have to keep going.
See, that's where there's this sense of entitlement right now that undermines, I think, a lot of people, because we feel like it's almost like we're avoiding suffering. We're avoiding pain at all costs because we think it's negative and it's bad. But you're actually talking about, no, I even am going to be grateful for the hard stuff, the pain stuff, because it's going to help me grow. That is not what we hear in culture right now.
We should, because I think that is something that has helped me a lot in my career and in my personal life. I think that when I go through, again, personally or professionally, challenges, it's important for me to remind myself that sometimes growth hurts, and like that's okay. Not everything is going to feel great. Not everything is going to be easy, but that doesn't mean that it's not good. And so I try to live in this mindset that everything is happening for you, not to you. And so it's like, oh, why is this happening to me today? No, why is this happening for me today? What is this actually going to yield? It's going to yield something that is going to be for me inevitably. It just may hurt while I get there. It may not be the way that I saw it, but I will be okay through it. And so that's something I lean into.
You see that even just biologically, like the way our muscles grow, the way we gain strength is actually through breaking it down. And then it grows bigger, it grows stronger, but that's what working out is. We're purposely breaking that stuff down. And I feel like, I try to be as open as I can about it. Some of my most significant leaps in growth have been really hard experiences, some even due to my own failures and my own crises. And yet it's in those moments I probably have some of the greatest awakening, and I'm probably propelled to make the greatest change in my life towards real transformation. But I feel like change doesn't happen when we're comfortable.
Absolutely.
As much, it can happen, but I feel like sometimes it's not as effective as when we're in suffering.
Absolutely.
But we live in a culture that almost, through escapism, any sense of, pleasure and sensuality. We do everything we can in this country to escape pain.
Oh, and to mask
to escape discomfort.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, even I think when it comes to the truth of who we are, I think we will almost live a false version of ourselves because it's too painful to live authentically into the truth of, no, this is who I really am.
1,000%.
But I don't want to be rejected.
I feel like I see that a lot, especially out here. People are presenting as these, it's almost a facade, because everybody is somebody out here, and everybody wants to get the most likes and have the most views on their story and the most views on their TikTok. And so they will be.
Why have you on the show?
Yeah. They will be whatever the audience wants them to be, even if that's not who they are.
So that actually leads us into what you're doing now, which is branding and marketing. And what do you do with, this is your career, is you are promoting sometimes even personas.
Yes. Yeah.
Rather than, so without talking about, who you work for.
Yeah.
What do you do?
So as a publicist, again, I think the modern publicist has changed completely from what a publicist used to be. I find myself, even from when I first started, actually, it's very different. When I first started, it was really, I would pitch clients to different media outlets and magazines, walk them down red carpets, get them into events, that kind of thing. Today's publicist, I am helping creative direct their music videos. I'm helping them conceptualize content for social media. I'm creating a social media strategy for them of how often they should be posting, what hashtags they should be using. I'm helping them curate their brand. So I'm helping them decide what they should look like, what they should be wearing when they go to an event, then taking to them events, still getting them in the magazines. It's
your job's so much more holistic now.
It is so much, but I love every single aspect of it. Well, that's not true. I love most aspects of it. I get very tired of writing the press releases, which is like at the core of PR. What I do is, if it's an artist who's putting out a song, I will write the press release about this song, and I will send that out to hundreds of media outlets and track who's covering it. Do they want the exclusive interview? Do they want to premiere it? Do they want you to come in for a performance? Do they want to do an Instagram live with you? Do they want to do a TikTok live? Like, in today's world, it is insane. Do they want to do a Snapchat show with you? Like, there are so many different avenues that we can pursue. But it starts with that press release. I write that press release, I send it out, and then we start feeling out the opportunities. And I will work with my clients to see where they see their brand going. I think the one thing that I try to do as a publicist is make sure that I am bringing my client's brand and vision to life, as opposed to just giving them a brand or vision, because then it's just not authentic.
Can we talk about brand and vision? Yeah. So what is branding? Like, well, I think we have a general idea of branding, but I've been learning it's not what you think it is, actually.
Branding can be a few different things. For me, branding is really what people associate you with without necessarily seeing your face or what you're doing. So, for example, we look at a company like Apple. When you see that apple that has the bite out of it, you know that brand. You know what it is. You also, at some point, when you're really good at branding, which I think Apple is extremely great at branding and marketing, when you see...
You're such an Apple nerd.
I'm such an Apple fanboy.
You are such a fan.
This is like probably too much, but I was looking at my credit card statement this year, and the place where I spent the second most amount of money was Apple. I have a problem with it.
It's not hard to do.
No, it's not. But, this is why they're great at branding. When you see an Apple commercial, you don't need to know that it's an Apple commercial. Or you don't need them to tell you it's an Apple commercial, because you know by how it's shot, by the music choices they're making, by the way that the commercial plays out, you know that that's an Apple commercial.
You can feel it.
Yeah, you just know, because they've created this brand for them that is so recognizable, that goes so beyond the word Apple. It goes so beyond what the iPhone is. You just know what that is.
It's palpable.
Yeah, and I think that great brands do that. I think when it comes to an artist, you can brand yourself in the way where we saw like Lady Gaga. She did a great job with branding when she first came out, wearing different wigs and different outfits. Mm-hmm. You knew, even if you didn't know who it was, you could tell, oh, this is probably Lady Gaga. There was an association without having to be told. And so I think great brands do that. I also think that great brands have consistency. So if you were to post on Instagram 6 times in a row, every post should be able to be digested as who that artist is without them having to read the full caption and reading the username. That you could just know, oh, this person is posting the same aesthetic that they were. This has to be this person.
So how do you change when you want to change whatever that brand has become? You like talk about Lady Gaga, and she had that brand, but then she comes out of that and she's like, okay, now that I've done all that, I want to enter into just authenticity. I want to just be me.
She's evolved so well. Like her brand, I mean, it's longevity. Like that's a career that will last forever. She did it extremely well in the way that she almost for me completed that circuit of like that pop crazy time. Like she gave her fans everything that they wanted to the point where she was ready to give them something else and they were ready for that as well. I think it's about knowing when it's time to change. I don't know if it's necessarily always how you change. It's about reading the audience, reading the room, and knowing, okay, I've given them so much of this and I know that I have something more to offer. I've been with them long enough that they will support me in that.
When you're talking about an artist, you're almost like, you can see in the beginning, you almost have to play into, okay, I'm going to build a brand out of a persona.
Yes.
It's not the full me, but I have to play into this clickbait. I have to play into this soundbite. I have to be what I'm supposed to be. And then eventually, once they've succeeded in that, and they've earned the audience and they've earned the trust, then they can kind of transcend that into,
Totally.
Okay, now you get to know me from, I almost feel like that's what that movie, A Star Is Born,
Absolutely.
was all about.
Totally. And that's like the greatest way to do that is to do a movie about it. Like, I think that's genius. Like, that's PR. That's
When Chappelle
marketing.
showed up in that thing, I was like,
Exactly.
okay, this is a message. This is like, they are telling you,
That's
this
marketing.
is our story.
Like, it's genius. They did it great. I think that like that's one way to do it. I think you can do it shock value. You have the Miley Cyrus effect, who went from like the teeny bopper Hannah Montana Miley Cyrus to like her crazy phase that I feel was all calculated in PR anyway, but it makes such a stir on the web that it causes either new fans to find her or forces out the fans that aren't going to be her fan in this new chapter. Because the ones that are going to support her will stay.
Right. Okay.
And so it filters that out.
So I got to ask then, why are artists making music for TikTok algorithms right now, and how that's working into what it is to even brand or launch a musician's career?
This is like a multi-layered question that
I'm sorry, we haven't even gotten into the branding thing either. It's like, this is happening. Like you said, there's so many channels of distribution now. How do you do it?
I think that TikTok is extremely important in today's music industry. TikTok is breaking new records for Billboard all the time. If a song goes viral on TikTok, it will probably chart on Billboard before you hear it on the radio.
Okay, so explain that. Break it down.
So one discovery, so when people are using your song in a TikTok video, they are more likely to also find that song on Spotify or Apple Music or YouTube. So that's already boosting your streams and your recognition. Every video that's made on TikTok counts towards the charts as well. I don't know if it's every video or a certain amount, but that helps with your
And we're not
charts.
just talking you made your video, but like you could have a guy pouring a glass of orange juice.
Correct. If they used your song, that will count towards your stream count. So that is why TikTok is so important right now. And I mean, if you're listening to the radio, you may not be hearing the songs that are on TikTok that are charting on Billboard, but it's just because they are literally charting in this social media bubble and they have millions and millions of listeners and followers, but it's still niche because the world is so big.
So how does that then translate into, do they get record deals, or do they, like, is that where you're going to look for up and coming artists?
That's where labels are looking right now. I feel like that has to change eventually because we are not finding longevity with this. We're finding some great talent, don't get me wrong. I think TikTok is incredible and that it gives everyone a chance to share their talent with the world. Maybe I am a little cold. I don't think everyone needs a chance to share their talent with the world. I want skilled artists to share their talent with the world. You wouldn't just throw me into a basketball game because there's an app that gives me the chance to do that. You would throw in a trained athlete who knows what they're doing, who has dedicated their whole life to the sport to play the sport. Whereas with TikTok, I am finding anyone can just put out a song and it can go viral. And we're seeing that. We're seeing meme songs go viral of people that do not necessarily know anything about music. And I don't love that. As someone who is a music head, I don't love that. It's a fine line, right? Because art should be accessible to everyone, but shouldn't a professional artist know music to a degree?
I feel like this isn't just a TikTok thing. This even happened when Apple just unleashed. I mean, Napster
Totally.
originally started, so then you have so many avenues now to go directly from artists to distribution. So now we get access.
Yes.
But then how do you weed through that? I feel like even now with everybody has a camera on their phone. Anybody can make a film. Anybody can make a video. Anybody can. So then how do we as the viewer even know how to sift through? Okay, there's thousands of films launched at me. Which ones are worth watching? And I feel like it's still the same number each year that are actually.
Exactly. And I feel like it's the same with music. You will have your set amount of hits every year. And then, you will have your set amount of timeless songs, I'll say. And then you will still have your one-hit wonders of the world that are coming from TikTok. And so I don't know the solution to this yet because TikTok is really driving the market. Like that is the most important social media platform for recording artists right now.
No kidding.
Absolutely. And so, of course, labels are looking at that. Oh, this song had 1 million videos made to it. We should sign this artist. It doesn't even matter the quality of the work at that point to them because they know that they will recoup their money. They will get, or the artist will not recoup the money. The label will get what they need from it. And if it doesn't make another hit, they don't need another hit. They got their money already from that and they can go on to the next one.
Is it that new then? Because isn't that what it always was? Like,
yes, but at least before we had the Clive Davises of the world going out scouting actual talent and making their money off of them, I'd rather hear like a Janis Joplin, a Whitney Houston, and Alicia Keys than some of the artists who are going viral on TikTok for, to be frank, making mediocre music. Like,
so how do you find the next Whitney Houston?
I don't know if we're looking for them. I don't know if the world is looking for that right now. And that's the biggest struggle I see in the music industry. I know some of the greatest singers alive, I feel. I really do. That doesn't mean that they have hit songs, though, because that's not what the market is buying right now. And that's the problem. I always say we're trying to sell hot dogs and everyone wants a hamburger. So I don't know what to do about that as someone who loves music. Because I don't want to dumb down the music that I'm working on with my clients. I want it to be exceptional. I want it to show off their vocal range and their tone and their singing ability, and I want the production to be amazing. But that is not necessarily what sells right now.
I feel like even, and I'm bringing it into film, where, I mean, we've always had the studio popcorn generated machine of like, hey, we know this is going to make a ton of money. We're going to put all the advertising into it. Those aren't the best films of the year necessarily. And when you do have someone like a Nolan that is able to do that and, whoa, you like took me somewhere, you transported me. Okay, that becomes genius. Spielberg did that for years, so you mentioned Clive Davis because he really is an icon.
Absolutely.
For finding and developing talent.
Yes.
Is that the solution? We need Clive Davises.
I think that is a solution. I don't know how easy. I think that there are talent scouts in the world that have that ear. I just don't know if the labels care right now because they're making their money. So there's no problem. We're looking for a solution as people that love art.
Right.
The labels are not looking for a solution. They found their solution. It's to get these songs as quick as they can and make money off of them and do it over and over and over again. They don't have a problem. They're making money.
So they care about the business of it, which is pretty standard.
Of course.
I feel like what we're talking about is why every actor at some point decides like, I want to go back to off-Broadway and perform. Like, I want to get out of this machine and I want to do real art because I feel like I'm just a part of an advertising revenue.
Right, which I understand. Like it is an industry. It's a business. So you have to sell what the consumer is buying. That's the fine line. So I play the game and I will do it, but I will try to do it with excellence still.
Do you get to talk to artists about this dilemma? Like, do you actually get to what do they say?
I feel like a lot of the artists I work with struggle with finding a TikTok persona, if you will. It feels unnatural to them. I've seen artists speak up about how them having to do TikTok is an added job to them now. So now not only are they writing the songs and making the songs, you want us to also be our own advertising, and you want us to create the content that's going to advertise.
You can't just do a podcast anymore on YouTube. You got to do this over here and this over here and this over here, and you got to be
exactly. Yes. And the labels won't do that for you. They expect the artist to do that. So there is frustration in that sense, where it's like some would argue that the labels back in the day did more for their artists than they do now. I think the labels actually developed talent before. I don't think they're doing that anymore. I think they're trying to find talent that is doing extremely well, and ride their coattails for as long as it can last, and then jump to the next. Because it's at the end of the day, it's not the labels sitting in the bedroom making the content for TikTok. It's the artist. They're the ones generating the viral content. They're the ones deciding what's going to work for them, what's not going to work. Maybe it's a publicist working with them, but it is not the label.
And that machine is so, I remember, I think it might have been 10, 15 years ago. I was working, it was a pilot show for CBS, and Mike Chiklis was on it, and every in-between advertising shot we were doing with the whole cast, man, he was back at his table, and it was like surrounded by a team of social media, and you could just see this is where the war room is happening. And he's like, okay, so I need more followers here, and I need this and this and this.
It's
and
crazy.
I'm like, oh my goodness, you're about to launch a whole new show on CBS.
No, it's crazy.
It blew me away.
It's crazy, and I understand it. I work in it. I get it. I can curate the content. I just want to get back to a place, and I say this a lot, I've tweeted it before, where I want people to stop creating for an algorithm and just creating because they want to create. And I feel like once we get back to that place, we're going to see a switch. I do think we're going to enter a renaissance period soon. I think after the way that the world has been going, the way that art has been dying, I think that the world goes in cycles, and we are going to come around to a renaissance.
What causes that? What's going to bring us to that?
I think that we are going to realize that there is not much longevity in the art that we're promoting right now. We're not finding, like you said, the Whitney Houstons of the world. People 30 years from now will still listen to Whitney Houston. Mm-hmm. They will not listen to the viral song on TikTok of the week. And I think that people will want that. People will want music that is timeless. People will want movies that are timeless.
Funny, TikTok will actually make a classic song that this generation doesn't even know about, and it goes viral, and then all of a sudden everybody's looking up a song from Led Zeppelin.
Exactly.
And they're like, what? And all of a sudden this song from the 70s is like chart number one again at the Billboard.
It happens a lot. And I hate to take the art and passion out of it, but I do also think very strategically and business minded. I think that labels will discover there is more money in longevity than in the overnight success. And so that will also help propel that.
So how do you speak to artists that want to really be artists, but at the same time, there is a machine, there is a business, you've got to play the game.
Yeah.
What do you say to them?
You have to play the game. I think that there is a compromise for everyone. And if you love music the way that you know you love music, you will find a way to translate your art into a TikTok, because TikTok is not inevitably bad for art. It's just a vehicle to share your art. So you can still find a way to make content that fits your brand and what you feel passionate about without having to do a trend or something that makes you feel uncomfortable. And that's what I try to tell people. Just find what works for you.
So breaking down, how I hear you breaking it down is, don't chase the game. Don't chase the algorithms. Don't just try to put out clickbait. Don't just try to get this sensationalized experience. Actually create something you believe in that really is something that comes from you. Find your voice and what it is you really want to say. And then from that, you can go ahead and play it into all the different distribution channels and ways that people can find it and this and this.
Yeah.
What do we have to do today so we can get like a 10-second TikTok out of it? Do we have to do some crazy dances?
Absolutely not. For this, for example, I would take a clip from the interview. I would just chop up a clip from here from an interesting thing or a funny moment, chop it up and put it on TikTok. People will like that. Like that, people just want to see clips of what they love, funny things that are inspirational, things that they can relate to. I think that's what people are looking for. And so that's what I would say. I would just take a clip from the show and put it on there. Take your 3 best clips from the show, share it out to all of your social media.
So when you're working with artists and you're basically doing all of this strategizing for the artists that you work for, what's kind of the steps that you break down even with their brand?
So I like to do weekly calls with my clients to kind of go over everything. And that first call is kind of like an onboarding call, and I give them homework and things like that. And so the first thing we'll do is I ask them to send me 10 media outlets or specific articles that they find interesting. I ask them to send me 10 brands, like clothing brands, technology brand, anything like that they align with or that they like how they present themselves. And then 10 artists or influencers or actors that they like how their Instagram looks.
Okay.
Then we'll get on a call and we will go through every single one of those things and what they like about it and what they think relates to them that they can create in their content, and what they don't like about it so we know what to stay away from. And then we'll take notes on all of that. And then after that, we will say, okay, based on these things, these are your 5 content groups. You can do covers, you can do food content, you can do travel, you can do animal content, and you can do video games. Those are the 5 things that you're passionate about, and those are the only 5 things that I should ever see on your social media page. If I don't see one of those 5 things, it's a post that you didn't need to share.
Oh my goodness.
And so that's kind of how we do that. And then I'm doing this with the client right now, actually. So this is the phase where she's at right now. I will have her make practice content for a week. And then we'll get on a call at the end of this week, and I will go watch all of the content that she created with her. And I will say, okay, these 4 look great. This one I don't love. Maybe we should revisit that content idea. Then once you have that down, we'll set up a schedule and say, okay, Saturday is your content day. I need you to record 5 videos that day and take 10 pictures. Then we can map out when they're going to post them, what the captions are going to be, and what the hashtags are going to be, so that they don't have to create content throughout the entire week. They just have a backlog of content that they're just hitting post every single day.
Okay.
Because you should be posting daily. And so once they have that down, it's kind of a machine. You just do it every week. Every Saturday, you record one of the 5 groups of content that you can record, and that's it.
So when you're doing that, how do you help get to the heart of who they are, or even the heart of who they want to be? And it's not just, I have to build this image.
We spend a lot of time talking as number one, helping or hearing what those brands that they like and the artists they like. That's very, very helpful to me because I can see where their passion lies. That's very telling to me. Like if you were to send me 10 brands you like and 10 actors, I would have a pretty good understanding of who you are as a person. And so that's just an experience thing because I'm
totally gonna do this.
Yeah, we just know. And so that's really how I do that, honestly. But also just being real with the person. Like I don't like to pretend that it's like this big like corporate thing. Like I'm just real with my clients. I talk to them the way that I'm talking to you. I dress like this. Like I'm not taking my meetings in like suits and ties. Like I really build that relationship with my clients where it's fun to have our calls. Like my clients will call me and say, oh, I'm so glad we're having our weekly consultation.
They look forward to it.
Yeah. And it's like, I feel the same way though. That's why I work for myself in PR, because I can choose who I want to work with and make sure that we are actually working together and enjoying what we're doing. So I think that's the biggest thing.
Do they feel like you understand who they are and you're really trying to promote who they want to be, or do they feel in some ways redirected and controlled in what you're doing? Like, do you ever find resistance in them in that?
Yes, I definitely find resistance. I think when I first started, I found that more because I didn't know how to navigate those conversations. Now I'm pretty good at getting my way. No, now I'm pretty good at making sure that they understand. Yeah, they understand what we're doing. We're not. If you don't want to do what I recommend, then you don't have to work with me. Like if you are capable of doing it on your own the way that you want, why did you come to me in the first place? Like you came here to work with me because you knew you were lacking that already. So now you have to trust that I can help you not lack that. And if that's not something that we can all commit to and agree on, then I always recommend it's just best that we don't work together. Or I'll recommend another publicist. I'm not trying to like hoard clients and things like that. I will recommend a publicist that may be a better fit for you than how I work. But for me personally, I work with them. I'm never telling them what they can or can't do. So for example, again, with this current client, we audited her Instagram. So we always do an audit of social media as well. And we go through and we delete anything that I don't think fits. And so there was like pictures of her and like,
what about the picture of my mom? Go away.
Yes, it was like pictures of her and her family. And I'm like,
really?
Does this, yes, this sounds crazy, but I'm like, does this picture really sell who you are as an actor? Because at the end of the day, that's what that Instagram is for. And this goes against all of the things I said about being authentic. But I always recommend people on social media, if you're in the industry, if you're presenting as a brand and you want to be an artist or things like that, your social media page can never be 100% who you are.
Huh?
Because you are entering a world of criticism. You're entering a world of people who are going to hate on you. And these are things that come with all of the love too. You're entering a world that can be scary. People can stalk you or cyber stalk you. Do you want your 12-year-old cousin to be in a picture on your Instagram when you want 12 million followers on that Instagram?
Right.
Is that something that you want? And these are things that people don't necessarily think about or think it's funny to think about. Oh, I have 1,000 followers. Why do I care? Tomorrow you could have 12 million. Is there anything on there that you don't want 12 million people to see? That's number one. Are there people on there that you don't want 12 million people to see? That's number two. Then the brand that you're posting cannot be truly you, because do you want 12 million people to critique the real you? Do you want every single day to read a comment about someone who hates you or sending you like a threat or things like that? Or would you rather them send that to a version of you that you know is not real and your friends and family know are not real? It's a wall to protect your true self from your business.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're a product.
Right, exactly.
Your persona
you
becomes the product. It almost is trippy when you see, too, some celebrities or performers, almost they lose themselves in the persona of their product. And it's like, whoa. No, that was just...
Yes.
That was a product. Too. That wasn't you.
Exactly, and that happens, too. But I just think that is so important. And I don't think that that's being fake or inauthentic, because you are sharing a version of yourself with the world. But you're sharing the version of yourself that wants to be seen and wants to entertain. There is still a version of yourself that is reserved for you, your family, your friends, the people that know you on an intimate level.
It's a private life.
Yeah, and I think that that's why I encourage people to look at social media that way, because it becomes a lot more fun and a lot less hurtful when you do it that way.
Yeah, but then that is the problem with social media, is that all of us, not even celebrities, but even dating profiles, your public profiles, Facebook, all of your social profiles, it's not really you.
Right.
You're presenting a version of yourself that you want people to perceive you, but that's not a real relationship. That's not the authentic you. And so how do people utilize this age of social media without giving up what it is to be private?
Yeah, I think it depends what you're looking at. For me, working mostly with recording artists and actors, you share your authentic self in your art. So in your music and in your film, that's where people will connect with you the most. On your social media, they will connect with you to the extent that you're comfortable with. And I think that that is very important, because again, there's nothing wrong with posting like a picture with family and things like that, if everyone is okay with that in the picture. But do you really want the entire world to be looking at that? Is that something that you really feel is so important to your brand and your product that they know everyone in your family or a group picture, or you're going out with your hometown friends? Do you really need all of that exposed to the world? If you don't, do they want that? Do those people want to be on a page that's meant to be a product page?
Right, because at that point, you're talking about true celebrities.
Right,
you're talking about performing.
But you have to start that when you start, because you don't know when it's going to happen. You could have a video go viral overnight and wake up with 1 million followers. And so then what? Did you just forget to audit everything? Like this, the minute you hire me, we audit your social media. You have to act as if you're at that level already. And for some people, that's hard to do. But I think a great publicist and great branding practice, like when you find that balance of, no, this is exactly who I am. It's just a version that I'm comfortable sharing. I think that's where you find that sweet spot. I would like to think that when I look at my clients' pages, or when fans look at their pages, they know who they are. They understand that this is like who this person is. This person loves animals. This person loves singing. They love family. They're a dad. Like, you know who this person is, but there's still that sense of privacy.
The art of doing it without
you
full
have to know
disclosure.
how. Yeah.
Can I ask you? So, have you had the opportunity to also work on branding for products? Has it always been celebrity talent, which is most of the history of how you got into this? Do you ever get to, because you talked about Apple, you talked about why you love what they do, and do you get to ever strategize branding of companies or branding of products?
Yes. So I've worked with a few different companies and their marketing and branding things. I currently am a content editor at one of the biggest tech companies out there. And so I do help with their marketing plans, and like, we're working on a couple new products right now, and so I've went in and helped with the marketing images, or what the copy of what we're going to say to customers, or when you go on a detail page to look at the product, what it's going to say, what is the phrase that's going to catch the customer. And so that to me is very different from doing a branding for like an artist.
Right.
I love them both equally. I think that it can be more fun at different times to do one or the other. I think that there is sometimes less stress when it comes to a product versus treating a person as a product, because it's like, that is still their life. But at the same time, you don't want to launch a product and have no one buy it. So that is also intimidating. But I generally find that there is more freedom and flexibility when you're working with a product. So you can have almost any idea in the world and try to make it work. Whereas like if I'm working with an athlete, I can't just be like, oh, today you're going to become like a professional singer. Like it doesn't work. Whereas with a product, we can say we should have singers, we should have athletes, like we can have whatever we want to promote this product. We can partner with a charity. We can do like so many different things to promote that.
Do you can you walk us through what brand strategy looks like for products? Like, so what do you do when you?
Yeah, I think for that, it really depends on the product. So if you're building a kids product, what we'll do is we'll look at what's popular for kids right now and try to see where that trend is going to go, so we can predict what's next instead of copying what's already happened. Because typically if something is a trend right now, it won't be by the time the product is live. So you want to predict what's next and not go with what's happened. It's too late to do that. But then we'll also, to be honest, we'll brainstorm with a couple other creatives and come up with different ideas of, okay, it's this time of the year, we can partner with a holiday charity. And at that charity, we can have a celebrity on board who will post about it on social media. And the celebrity will want to be on board because they are part of that charity. And so they will do that because it helps them help the charity, and it helps us get the product out there while also doing good in the world. So charity PR is great because you are doing something good. You're actually helping people, and customers love that. They love to see a product that's doing good in the world. If you know that you're going to buy, if there's two shoes on the table, they're the same price, and this one 10% goes to like No Kid Hungry, you're going to buy that shoe. And so you have to learn, it sounds so crazy talking about it this way, but you have to learn what the consumer is going to be drawn to. Whether that is a charity, whether that's a certain colorway, whether that is a certain catchphrase that is going to do well, you figure that out, and then you make that really bold and you start promoting it that way.
That's marketing.
Yeah.
That is, but you really have to know clients and customers. Like,
you do. And I mean, of course, we do a lot of studies at the company where I work, and we do beta testing, and like we get information back from people. So it's not like we're just blindly going off of things. There is data involved. You do customer surveys. You see what they like, what they don't like. Do they want it to look like this or sound like this more? And so you take that data so you know kind of going into a general area of what you can go for, but then from there you do have creative freedom to kind of.
So, but when you're describing, a lot of what I hear you describing is kind of the promotion of a product or a brand and how the customer is going to receive it. What about the development? So like with Apple, for instance, or you said don't chase the customer, chase what's popular,
right?
Chase trends. What goes into developing the brand, period? Like, did Apple try to figure out what the customer wanted, or was Apple more like, no, this is who we are and we think you're going to love it because we're passionate about who we are? Like,
I think that Apple has a really cool way of making you think that they were like, this is who we are. But really, Apple has learned so much from their original Macintosh, from the original iPod classics that you still see in today's products that people may forget about, or maybe the new generation is too young to remember those products. But that is all valuable data that Apple has from the iPod Classic, from the original Macintosh, from the iPod Touch. These are all things that they learned how consumers interacted with their product and what they liked and didn't, and they can now present it as their new technology. But it's not. They also do a really good job at making you feel like you have the best of the best, the top of the line equipment with tech that is sometimes outdated. There are definitely Android phones out there that have higher specs than an iPhone. That's a fact.
right.
I'm a big tech guy, so that I know that to be true. But Apple will always make me feel like I have the best of the best, and they will always get you into their ecosystem. Like once you're in, you're in. And I think that that's another smart thing that they do.
Well, that's kind of what my experience with Apple and why I love their products and I bought into the ecosystem is that this is kind of the argument I always hear go down between people that don't like the Apple fanatics. And then I don't know that I'm an Apple fanatic. I don't have any problem criticizing them. So It's not like I've, committed a sacrilegious act. But it's like for me, it just works. It works seamlessly, and I've tried other in fact, I actually have in my house multiple ecosystems, and because Apple doesn't always play nice with everybody else, right? So if I want to be able to integrate a lot of different tech, because I'm a techie in that way, I can't just solely rely on Apple.
Right.
But I do find when I have my multiple ecosystems, boy, when Apple does do it, I feel like they just do it better, or they do it with greater excellence, and it's almost seamless. It doesn't feel clunky.
It's seamless and innovative in the sense that not that they have created something new, but they have taken something and made it fit so well into a world that you're already a part of that you don't even recognize that it's old technology because it feels so new. It feels so seamless, and it's something that you want to use.
That's the thing, the word innovation. I hear innovation always lobbied of like, oh, you got to create something new. Oh, you got to invent something new. And I'm like, I don't need you to invent something new, frankly, because I don't need to spend more money buying the new thing. What I need you to do is perfect what you have.
Yes.
Continue to perfect it. I don't care that this new phone does all this extra crap that I never asked for it to do. I just want the phone that I need. It's reliable, and I don't have to think about it. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to learn new things. I just want it to work so that I can live my life, and the tech is just in the background of it. That's what I feel like Apple does.
Yeah.
But they take so much criticism. They're like, well, how come you didn't invent something new? How come you didn't put a new thing? Look at what they're doing over here. And it's like, yeah, but...
Right, but that's breaking half the time. Like, I don't need that.
Right, like it doesn't, it's not... So what do you think when Simon Sinek talks about in his famous talk from years ago on TED Talks about how Apple focused on the why behind the what, or the why before the how and then the what, and that's what made their brand strategy so incredible, the way they hit the market?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that 100%. I think that all these tech companies are all extremely talented. They can all do the same things if they wanted to. But Apple has done it in a way where they answer the question of why do our customers need this? why is this going to perform well as an ad? They ask that question, and then they can come to an answer that makes sense. Whereas sometimes I feel like some of the other competitors, like you said, they want to be innovative, and they just want to say, oh, we can just stick all of this stuff in there, and it's going to be so cool. No one's ever seen anything like this. And no one's ever seen anything like it, and maybe no one needed to see that yet. Like, maybe you needed to perfect that and ask, do my customers want this? Why do they want this? And is it going to benefit them at all? Huh. Or is it just something that we can do and no one else is doing it? Which I don't always think is the answer to building products or marketing or anything like that.
Can I bounce some things that I've been learning? Because I recently went through a friend of ours took us through a whole brand strategy.
Cool.
Like, it took like 2 months to go through everything and all these different workshops and stuff. But I learned some stuff, and I wanted to see, like, how does that play with what you know and the expertise that you have in it. So they were telling us that now companies are actually looking at themselves or looking at what branding is almost like a person.
Okay.
Like treating a company like it's an actual person. And so you definitely have like the vision, the purpose, the mission for the person that isn't necessarily always public facing either. Then once you've developed all of that, you dress the person, and then you place you name the person. Yeah. But then they were talking about recently how even companies with this whole person dynamic are actually learning the hero's journey of, so what is it for the company as a person to actually overcome conflict, to actually have to grow as a person, or almost like a protagonist, like, okay, as a brand, we made a mistake. Oh, we have to learn as a brand. We even need to own we messed up there. We're learning and growing as a brand. Have you experienced that in what you're doing and the marketing that you get into?
I feel like, yes, definitely to a degree, not so much in the product branding side of things, but I see it a lot as well. And it's true, like that is how you should look at it when you're doing those things, because people want to relate to something, and it's harder. They want to relate. It's harder to relate to something than it is to relate to someone. And so when there is that personality, or you treat it as such, people will relate to that. I think you even see that on like Twitter in a much smaller way though. But when you look at a social media account I look at like, okay, this is very random, but the Wendy's social media account is hilarious because they tweet as if they are Wendy's, like the girl with the red hair, and they will just like tweet back to like Burger King and all of these other places, and they have a personality that people go to them like, oh, what is Wendy up to today? Like they want to feel like this is a brand. Or like KFC, you can tweet like the Colonel, like it's a real thing. Same thing with Adidas. Like all of these brands, they will tweet as if the brand is a person talking. And I think that some people know like, okay, this is just a social media manager doing this, but like I think it's fun, and I think it's smart. Exactly. And so I see that all the time. I think, I know Amazon does that as well, and Apple does it, but Amazon has an account where it's like an Alexa account where they will tweet and post as if they are Alexa. And it's like, people like that because it's relatable. It's more relatable than seeing a corporate guy on screen telling you about a product. You feel like you are invested in this journey of what the product is going to be or what the brand is going to turn into.
Or you could show hilarious. You're like in a Geico type thing where it's just, we're just going to randomly just make you laugh.
I'm sure like Flo from Allstate has like an Instagram. Like these people are, they're personas.
That's cool. You said in the beginning that you are a gamer and you got into a lot of things because of gaming. What is happening in the gaming world when you start looking at this idea of the metaverse?
So, big question again. I feel the metaverse is such a PR word, to be honest. I feel like the metaverse is a million different things, and people use that word all the time to get clickbait or to get people to read an article.
Did I just do that?
Potentially. I we'll see depending on how the conversation goes, but like there are multiple metaverses right now, if you will. So Sony has their own metaverse and virtual reality. Meta has their own. There are different virtual reality operating systems right now. So to say that it's the metaverse is, for me, a reach right now. I don't think we're at this place where it's this seamless thing where you can pick up any device and enter into this metaverse.
Will you break down for those who are watching that don't even know what the metaverse is?
Okay.
At least, like you said, the metaverse could mean a ton of things.
Right.
How do you see it? What is the overall concept?
I see the metaverse as the virtual reality version of the world that we live in right now. Whether that is going to, which it's so early that it's not even shaped yet, but is it going to be a world that looks like the movie Tron, or is it going to be us wanting to just travel this world that we can't right now? So, for example, people that maybe can't fly or travel, their metaverse could be them putting on virtual reality goggles and going to Niagara Falls, going to Europe, going to Mexico in the metaverse. Or it could be someone who wants to go into completely fantastical land that has nothing to do with the reality that we live in. I play a game in the metaverse where I literally can fly around, shoot fire out of my hands, like interact with thousands of other people there. You have different weapons. Like, it's completely a whole different world. But then my parents actually like virtual reality. And so my mom will go into the metaverse and she'll just go fishing.
It's more like The Sims.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why it's so hard to really define what that looks like, because you can even go into the business side of things and say that the metaverse is going to be an opportunity to have real estate in virtual reality, or to have NFTs displayed, like an art gallery of your NFTs.
What's an NFT for everybody that doesn't understand?
An NFT, honestly, I'm not super familiar with them. I know that an NFT is, I know what it is. I just have a very skewed perception of NFTs.
Okay. Can I try
sharing
what I think an NFT?
Your thoughts are on it? Because maybe I'm the person who's behind, but I feel that we have almost peaked in the NFT world. Like,
really?
I feel like we have came and gone already.
Okay.
But I would love to hear your thoughts on it.
Well, I don't understand it fully, but from the little that I do, an NFT would be something that carries value in the virtual world. It's not necessarily real or concrete in this world. It's a non-fungible token. So let's say somebody creates a piece of art in the virtual world, or some kind of a really cool symbol or icon or something like that, and it has value for whatever reason because it is rare. Like, they only do so many of it. Then I can use whatever currency, which could be cryptocurrency, and I could buy that, and now I'm the only one that I get, maybe there's 30 of it. So now I have this piece of art, or I have this symbol, and I actually own it because I bought it, even though it's not anywhere in the real world. Am I right in understanding that?
I mean, that's like my basic understanding. I know it has to do with the blockchain as well. Like, there is value there because we are making there be value.
Right.
And that's what scares me a little bit, which I guess all things are like that. But it's so like tomorrow because I know how pop culture moves, that tomorrow we could just be like, we don't care about NFTs anymore. We care about something else. And so that's the only thing that I have. That's my reservation with getting into that world too much. I'm into crypto to a small degree. I have some money invested in that. But even that, I'm just so not into 100% right now.
Yeah, because I was going to say, how is that even different from crypto?
Right, exactly. That's
point?
That's why I'm not super into it. I know people who have made lots of money off of it. I know people who have lost lots of money on it. I think if it works for you, that's great. I think that, again, NFTs, I'm seeing recording artists like go into NFTs and make music on Web3, and I'm just like, can we just make good music first? Like, can we get back to that and then figure out what you want to do next? Like, I promise there is a market out there for good music. Maybe we don't need to make music on Web3 and NFT music if we were making good music. Maybe we're going there because we're not making music of that quality anymore.
See, I keep hearing in you that you are very familiar with the game. You're very familiar with how this machine works, and you are an expert that helps artists and companies navigate that machine, but you're really interested in the heart and soul. You're not just interested in winning that game. It's like, okay, yep, let's play the game. But in the end, why are we playing it anyway? Right. What is in the heart of you as an artist? What are we doing?
And that's where I feel most passionate when it comes to music and art, is what moves me, because that music is such an important part of my life that I don't want to be a part of something that doesn't move me. We're going to play the game and we're going to play it with excellence, but we're only going to do that with something that I 100% believe in. I could work for any PR firm I wanted to. I could apply and get the job, but I would be stuck doing PR for people that I don't necessarily believe in. Right now, I get to decide who I work with. I get to decide what songs I want to work on, what artists I want to work with, what actors I want to work with. And to me, that is the most valuable thing in my job.
Do you almost feel like you can much more easily play the game when you're working with an artist that really has conviction and has purpose? And it's like, yeah, we'll play the game. Like, we'll figure out how to.
I would rather help an artist who I feel is a genuine talent that is meant to. Something I always say is I want to shift culture. I want to move culture. And so I want to work with artists that I feel are going to do that as well. And I would much rather work with an artist who knows nothing about social media but has the power to shift culture than to work with someone who is a social media expert but does not have that passion.
Because you could see a lot of channels, or you could see a lot of content that gets created. It's fun and it's entertaining. And in some ways, like even in us seeking to do this show, we want to be fun, and we want to learn, and we want to be interesting, and we want to, but I hope there's something more to the gravitas
the show
of it.
Does well because you connect with your guests. Like, you have that charisma that is going to draw people to watch it. And so that is something that I would be interested in working with. Like, that's what I want to find to work with, because I can teach you social.
KD, we're hiring this guy.
I can teach you social media practices. I cannot teach you how to be passionate.
Right.
So for me, that's where it comes down to. Like, I would much rather find an artist that knows nothing about social media, but is a singer and a writer and has a story to tell, than find the biggest social media star in the world that's like, I need 10 songwriters. I need the A-list producer. I need to know how to sing. I don't care then. If you don't have a story to share, if you're not passionate about that, it doesn't matter. The social media practices I can take to anyone.
But it doesn't sound like it's just about art for you. You actually said something. You said shifting culture.
Yeah, I think that that's a big statement to make, but I think that there are people that do it, and I think that I can be one of the ones to do that. Obviously, culture is always changing. I think pop culture is one of the things that influences our culture the most. And so I want to be a part of the pop culture that is going to be looked back on, and they're going to say, wow, remember when this happened and we saw this shift? Like, you see that shift happen in pop culture. You see when an artist like an Adele comes out, the shift in how music sounded for a little bit, and the shift in how people responded to music, and how music brings people together. Like, I want to be a part of those things. When we have tragedies in the world, we turn to music most of the time. There is always a benefit concert. There is something that brings people together, and I want to be a part of things that do that.
So in a positive way, you are wanting to shift culture, not just in political ways. I think politics plays into it, and I think that pop culture plays a lot into politics more than most people think. Mm-hmm. And we saw that in the last 20.
I mean, we know how media, well, I know how media works. And so, like, you know what a press release looks like. Like, you know, I'm a publicist, but I'm also not a consumer of media. Like, it's a very weird thing.
Interesting.
I feel like...
Wait, total sidetrail. Did you see the Dream Face reveal on Sunday
saw a
for
glimpse
being a gamer? And just a glimpse of it?
Just a glimpse. No! I'm telling you, I have been...
This is like the biggest YouTube event.
I have been swamped.
I didn't even know who Dream Face was, and I watched that whole thing.
No, I saw a glimpse of it on Twitter. So I do a lot of my catch-up on Twitter or something like that. But I saw that, which I thought, again, is like... just so bizarre that people have such an opinion on it. Like, and such.
Oh, that was, yeah.
Just, yeah, people are interesting in that sense, but that's why you have a social media brand.
You mean like
that
the
is not
hate
you.
on like his...
Both, honestly. I think the hate, and I think that who cares? Like, if you like the content, who cares what the guy looks like? Why do we even need the reveal? Like, just keep going. I would love to actually, I'm going to have to do a deep dive into his brand because, like, why the reveal? Was something not working? Did he need to do something in that moment to, like...
I think what he needed to do was that it was getting to a point. I think he did a really good job branding his icon of Dream Face.
Yeah.
And I think he was at a point where he wanted to be able to kind of be free from all of the secrecy of it. Like people, I mean, I think he said in the video he was getting even an FBI threat at one point, but you know, people exposing him. It was his friend coming in that he wanted to be able to go out in public with and not have to worry about people seeing.
I did see that.
So it's like, why not monetize it? Like he did a really good job. That thing had like, how many million? I think it had like 1.5 or 2.5 live. 2.5 million live viewers.
Yeah, that's insane.
He's bigger than Ninja now.
Yeah,
I think. Right? Like he's 35 million subscribers.
I would say Ninja's still up there, but he's probably at this point a little more relevant.
Yeah, but he did. And so, yeah, I think he just wanted to be able to do something more because what he was doing was fun. In fact, I think I watched like a 25-minute Minecraft run just to find out like where. I was like, oh my gosh. But it was actually really fun. It was like the ultimate game of tag.
No, I love watching streamers. I think it's so interesting. I really do.
And so I think he did a very brilliant job monetizing and setting up the next stage. So I think it was a marketing.
Definitely. So this is now an example of what we were talking about, evolving your brand, of Lady Gaga going from the meat suit to A Star Is Born. So he went from his meat suit to A Star Is Born. Like that's like he's into the next level of his brand. And apparently he did it very well if he had 2 million live streams. Like that's insane to have that many viewers live concurrently. So
but then you did get people hating on him like he's I mean, people were like, he's ugly. It's like, what are you talking about?
That's the thing. That's why we say you have to have some barrier because there's always going to be hate. Someone is always going to send you hate. But if you have that slight barrier of like, well, this is a version of myself that they're hating on. They're not hating on actually me. They don't know me.
You can't put yourself out in the public like that.
No.
You can't. Even if you're going to be radically authentic, to put yourself out there in any way is to open yourself to the opinions, the views, the disagreements, even the disappointments from people. There's no other way.
No way.
You have to be willing to take that. It's very scary.
Oh yeah, it's terrible, but you just have to kind of go with it. Like people are going to have opinions, and that's just a fact. I think that again, for me, it's really that barrier. No one is ever going to know me the way that the people in my life know me. So I'm okay with dealing with hate online or things like that because it's not me. I mean, we've hung out many times. This is a great podcast. We're being super authentic, but you still know me in a way outside of this podcast.
It's still limited.
Right. There's still a certain degree of like PR and things like that to it. Whereas when these mics are removed and we're playing Smash with the kids, and it's just a different thing.
You're kicking my butt with
exactly. Like that's a different thing that I don't share with everybody.
That's right.
And I think that's how I get through it. And that's, again, the easiest way to kind of keep moving on.
Well, you said something else in a previous conversation. Man, it was that conversations. It's through conversation that we make change. Conversations change culture.
Conversation moves culture.
That's what it was. Conversation moves culture. But I remember the conversation part of like, man, you are just nailing it.
I think that that's true. And it's why I started my entire career as a journalist interviewing people. Because I think that hearing someone's story and talking with them and hearing is a big word I want to say. Hearing their story, listening to their side is a big part of the conversation. I feel like a lot of people forget to do the listening part of it and the hearing part of it, and they just want to speak their side and speak their side. But for me, culture is only moved when opposing sides can talk and can share their discrepancies and their similarities, because there are both. But we are so blinded to just feeling like we are set in our way. There is no conversation that needs to be had here. That creates, to me, a stagnant situation. How can we move forward if we are not hearing each other out, if we are not talking about the issues at hand, or about what you think and what I think and what we agree on and disagree on, finding solutions to those things, finding compromise to those things? Without that, we will be stuck.
But is it okay to take a position? Is it actually okay? Because I feel like right now in culture, that's almost like, oh, well, you can never take a position. You can never say that you do. It's like the only position you can take is to not take a position.
I mean, that is definitely the PR answer. Like, the publicist in me will definitely tell my clients sometimes to not take a position. I think you have to, I don't think everyone needs to share their thoughts all the time. I think there are some people that are educated in certain things that should share. The same way that I would not be talking to you about things that I don't know about. We talked about NFTs, and I was honest, and I don't know much about them.
Right.
And so I'm not the expert on them. And so my position is not that I am right. My position is this is what I know, and I'm willing to learn. There are other topics where I am an expert in, and my position is my position because of the data that I have. However, I am still willing to learn, because you can never know everything, and there is always going to be someone out there that can offer you a different perspective. I don't even need you to offer me a different factual statement at times, but just hearing your perspective may change how I view something.
See, I just cut you off.
No, you're good.
Going. Yeah, that is the reason to take a position, I think, is to get the conversation going, because then we can talk about something. You could disagree, I can disagree, and we can get somewhere. But the key in taking the position is, am I willing to allow the position that I take to be challenged? Am I willing to listen to somebody disagree with my position? Am I willing to listen to somebody from a different position? And then you just said, am I willing to be a student?
Yeah, of course.
Because, dude, how can we be expected to be experts in everything? Like,
there's no way. Also, I think we do live in a time where people are afraid to admit that they don't know everything, and they're afraid to admit that they could be wrong. But I'm not. I think that that's something that is important, is to know, oh, I was wrong here. I learned something new. This changed my opinion, or this added a layer to my opinion that I hadn't thought about before. Maybe I need to go reflect on that. Like, I think that, I just think it's important to hear people out. I think it's important to give people a chance. I don't think that people are bad at their core. I think everyone just has their own ideas, and sometimes when you are unable to express those ideas and unable to hear others express those ideas, that's where we get this weird kind of conflict that we see a lot.
Thank you for affirming so much of what we're actually trying to go for.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's important. I enjoy talking to people that have opposing views. Like, I don't want to talk to the people who think the same way as I do all the time. That's boring. I already think that way.
Well, it's fun. Like, in this, honestly, there's some things that we touched on that would be so fun to bring you back and, like, really get into things that are like, whoa, let's dig deep on that. But honestly, for this evening, it's just really fun to learn, like, what it is you're doing. And I'm learning from it. I didn't think through some of the stuff that you've been sharing with me. It's like, that is so cool. Then there's a different format. I know. It'd be fun to have some really cool dialogue.
Oh, I would be down,
like, whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah. Oh,
we're able,
crazy,
Yeah, give us
These are the conversations my friends and I have. Like, literally, this is what we talk about all the time. Like, spirituality, like, honestly, we'll talk about politics or things that we agree and disagree on, determinism versus free will. Like, we talk about all of this.
You talk about determinism versus free will.
Yeah, like, this is what my friends and I talk about. Like, that's just
okay. So we're doing this again,
and we'll just do
only
that
this time. Yeah, we're
I'm down.
Might have to light a cigar.
I was literally at my friend's house. We're all sitting around having cocktails, and two people are arguing about determinism and free will and quoting philosophers. And I'm just like, this is not the vibe of the party tonight, guys. Like, love these conversations, but we're having cocktails, we're hanging out, there's music playing. And they're like, well, this philosopher said this. And I'm just like, wow. The one person, she mentioned the word like quantum theory, and I was like, we can't be talking about that right now. Like, I have a cocktail in hand, it's 10 p.m., but that's just what my friends and I like talking about.
Okay, so you know me that I audited philosophy courses for fun in graduate school, and I'm like, what am I doing? I can't even keep up with how long. I'm like, but I'm so fascinated in metaphysics. And then we would just hang out all the time, and we would just pontificate about anything and everything. And sometimes it could be so abstract, and yet I still learned so much. Yeah. But then something has shifted in me where I still really like talking about the theoretical. But I'm so convicted about what is going on in our culture and in our society that I want these ideas to actually be cashed out in real life. Like, I want it, I would love to talk about determinism and free will, but not because I want to get in some debate over something that's been argued for centuries. It's because I actually believe that it makes a difference in personal responsibility. It actually impacts how we perceive what it is to make choices that actually matter. But then at the same time, we can have a sense of security in knowing that there is orchestration to everything, even our failures can be orchestrated and woven into very beautiful futures.
Yeah, and so we touched on that earlier. That's kind of how I get through those failures. And so it is because of those conversations. That's what my friends and I talk about quite a bit, honestly.
See, so we'll definitely do.
I would love to. I'm telling you, that's our weekend conversation.
We're just gonna go crazy
we have wine and cheese and talk about determinism and free will and spirituality and all of that.
But the thing that I want to close us with is to highlight conversations move culture.
Absolutely.
So that, guys, this is so key because we need to have dialogue. We need to have the ability to listen. We have to have the ability to hear from people that we absolutely disagree with and even learn from them. And we can hold conviction. We can have strong positions, but I still want to be a student and learn, and where might I rethink this position? And if we don't have that, then we're just talking past each other.
Exactly.
That's what's going to happen. Do you have any last thoughts? That was kind of what I really wanted to highlight. That is such a powerful takeaway in how you even perceive what it is that you do through your career and through helping these artists. But conversations move culture.
Yeah, I feel like that's a great kind of note to end it on. I would reiterate that conversation moves culture. Don't be afraid to be a student. I think the minute that we stop learning, we really have nothing left to live for. I think that we can learn every day from people that we like and that we don't like. And don't be afraid to put yourself out there and do what you're passionate about. I think we talked earlier about kind of my journey, how it all started from sleeping on the floor to now. I think that we all have those stories inside of us. Some of us may have a harder time getting to those stories, but just do it. Like, if there's a passion in you, we are looking for that right now, I promise. That is what the industry is looking for.
Thanks for being an inspiration and just an example of living through all that you've gotten to live through and get to where you are and now have the influence that you have.
Well, I appreciate it. Still ways to go, but I thank you for having me, and hopefully I'll be back soon to talk about determinism.
We're doing
I'm ready. Dude. I'm so ready. I'm like, how about next week? What are we doing next week?
We just might have to.
Back-to-back episodes.
Thank you for joining us tonight. If you get a chance and you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe, click the like, click the notification bell. Definitely engage what we've talked about in the comment section. We'd love to hear your thoughts. We'd love to engage your thoughts and keep the conversation going. So thanks for being a part of this community. Thank you, John, for joining us.
Thank you.
Really appreciate hanging out with you.
This was so fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.